guys. Just let me know specifically what questions you have now. I mean, I can go on all day with those guys. Literally,
Yeah,
we'll probably be here till midnight.
yeah, yeah. There are a ton of guys. We've got a 45-minute limit on each podcast, so that's why we cut out there for a second.
No, I got
I'm
you.
recording now again, and I wanted to ask you about a few guys. Well, I guess let me take it back just real quick because in my opinion, um, instead of pigeonholing most of the guys, I think 90% of your recruiting, personally, I think 90% of your recruiting you should be recruiting athletes, whether it's length or whether it's athletes or speed. You should be recruiting those guys, not 90% of the time. Like I say, obviously there's quarterbacks that you want a specific skill, you want specific guys to play certain positions, but I mean, in so many of the cases, you're going to have a long guy. We already mentioned, Kelton Bertonini. You got Jay Wadley. Some of those guys with length, they could end up being offense or defense. And a lot of times that
Exactly.
changes. I mean, there's a guy named Dalton Baker at Utah State right now, and first time I saw him, I knew he was a Division One athlete. I didn't know if he was a tight end or a outside linebacker, but and he started as a tight end, and now he's an outside linebacker. Should get playing time this year. So, guys like that are definitely you got to keep an eye on, and you can't think so narrowly. You mentioned Zach Engstrom. Who knows what position Zach Engstrom's going to be in college?
Right,
He
right.
could end
Good.
up being a few different positions. So. Some of these guys you got to see the potential. So my question for you is it hard to be able to tell? You're obviously looking for D1 athletes. Is it hard to tell a D1 athlete from a non D1 good high school football player?
No, you know right off the bat and
Yeah.
that's the thing. With the D1 guys, you don't question. You got to
Yep.
question the guy. He's not a D1 guy. I mean, if you got to
Right.
really question, he's not there yet. Now, can he be one? Yes, which is and you might have like a guy extremely athletic, just lacking some skills. But I'm speaking when I say D1, I'm speaking is the talent there, and does he have enough technique right now to where if I were recruiting at a Mountain West school, a Conference USA school, outside the Power Five schools, it's this guy outside of the Power Five with the majority of schools want him. And that's what I'm thinking when I'm saying D1. Now, Power Five schools, I'll say Power Five, and that's
Yep.
how I'll label those guys. But yeah, no, I mean, um, you know right off the bat, or at least
I
I
agree.
feel like I do, and I feel like the guys
Yep.
I've been around do. So
Yeah, I 100% agree. I can walk around your camp, or I can walk around the Level Up Elites camp, or the Mountain West Elite camp, or the All Poly camp, or the Utah State high school camp, and I can pick out the guys who are D1, and I'm not as trained of an eye as maybe some people. Maybe the coaches are, way better than I am, but is I guess, and then at that point, obviously, if you can tell a D1 guy, obviously Utah State, for example, can't offer every D1 guy, but
exactly.
especially now that Utah has improved so much, so the state of Utah is full of talent. So does it does it get I guess does it get tougher to maybe compare? I want this offensive lineman or this athlete or this wide receiver, running back over this guy, or is it harder to be able to tell a guy's potential, or does that get
That
kind of down to the details
oh
where it gets
oh
tougher?
man,
Or
that's a great question. You know what? There are some fierce recruiting battles
yeah,
to go along with that question. Because now what happens, everyone brings in and so top 5 or 10 guys at each position. You know what I
yep,
mean? So
yep,
you have 10, 12, 13 coaches that are really recruiting heavy in certain areas. You're gonna have quite a few guys on that board. A couple hundred guys that can play. About 10 at each position that are legit. And usually you'll have about 5 or 6 that are separate themselves. Then the next, 3 to 4, 5 that are, that next tier, but not quite the one you want. But could you win with them? Yes. But could
Right.
you win a lot easier with the first, 4 to 5? Absolutely. Here's where that question comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
Say, for instance, you have the running back coach recruiting Texas, the wide receiver coach recruiting Utah heavy, or really every in-state coach should recruit you, or the in-state, or every coach should recruit in-state. But hypothetically speaking, you have the DB coach recruiting Bay Area, another one recruiting LA. All right, so they're all going to come back with their top guys. They're all going to be good players. I mean, they're all going to be players that can help you. Now it becomes, it becomes a campaign battle. I mean, you think it was like the presidential primaries or something.
Yeah.
They get that heated. You guys, aren't talking for weeks. Coaches that are good friends. I mean, I've been in that situation where I didn't want to look at certain coaches because they passed on guys that I felt like I knew would come in and be starters right off the bat. But you know what? I felt like every guy I brought in was a legitimate guy, but every coach feels that way. I mean, every coach feels that way, and every coach wants to contribute something. So, yeah, I mean, it becomes very personal then to, I want my guy. And everyone's going to say team and all BS. People want to bring in their guys from the recruiting areas. I mean, because if they don't, they're not doing their job, and they're probably not going to be coaching too much longer. If they can't, you got to be able to recruit. You got to be able to recruit, and that's the thing. So, yeah, there are a lot of good players, and there's a lot of good players that get overlooked because of that. Because it's like what you said, it's a numbers game. You can't sign them all. You can't. Now it becomes a battle. Say you can only bring in 2 receivers. There's 12 on the board. You know what I mean? 12 that can help you. You can only bring in 2. So it becomes very interesting then, just how that pans out.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of fans, obviously, on the message board or Twitter or something, don't realize that. I mean, there's been guys, and especially in the last couple of years, there's been guys that I didn't understand, and I'm sure you'll have your frustrations, and you have in the past, and you will in the future. Working with these guys, saying why is this guy not getting an offer? But that definitely is the case, and especially like Utah State didn't have very many spots on the offensive line last year, but they ended up getting a kid from Alta who I think a lot of people really wanted the Aggies to offer, and it all worked out in the end. But yeah, it's a crazy game, a crazy business. Coaching in general is crazy, and it's a tough business to be in. You can ask any of them; they'll definitely tell you. Another guy, I don't know if you. I think he was at Level Up Elites, not at your camp, but there's a kid at Timpview, same thing. He was winning all his one-on-one battles, named Colby Anosa. You'll have to check him out. He goes to Timpview, so I think he's gonna get a lot of publicity this year. He didn't get as much playing time last year behind some of the players they had last year, or get the recruiting and everything, but that guy is impressive. Probably he could end up being a defensive tackle, as usually the case. He's a defensive end now in college. He'll probably slide over to be a defensive tackle or nose guard, but that guy is a pass rusher. He's impressive. Who else was I going? Oh, I was going to ask you, kind of in the same mold as Kelton Bertonini at Provo. There's a few guys kind of in that boat as well, as you mentioned Jay Wadley, but guys like Jamarius Earls, who's at Copper Hills, kind of hidden.
I watched him. I went and watched him against Brighton 707. So great athlete.
Yeah,
really good athlete. Trey Davenport's probably another one that's like that too over at Brighton. 6'4", 190 wide receiver they got there. He's very similar to that too. Very athletic.
Yeah, there's a guy, Kobe Matagi. He's at Bingham. His brother signed a letter of intent with Utah State a couple of years ago, but I think he'll end up being a better player. And at Bingham, he didn't get really any playing time last year because he was behind some really good players. Speaking of just really good players that kind of nobody had room for. The safety for Bingham last year was I think he was the best player in the state. But
you talking about the kid that played running back too for him? the safety that
Yeah,
played running back too. Oh, he was phenomenal. His name's I can't remember. Oh wow, the name's slipping me, but he was phenomenal. I agree
yeah,
with you. I thought he was the best player too. But I watched that kid on film. He's impressive. So
yeah.
Keith Chatelain, the offensive line coach of Bingham, we played together at Kentucky, and
Okay.
phenomenal player. He was one of the top centers in the SEC from Louisiana. He's over at Bingham, so him, Coach Lamborn, I'm definitely going to be over there. I have a good relationship with those two, so
Yeah,
they're very open to getting the guys up. But I do know of him. I need to see him in person. I like what I see on film.
yeah. And there's definitely some loaded programs that I'm going to keep an eye on and watch closely. Alta's an easy one.
Right.
Especially where they're bringing in some new guys this next year. They had
Mhm.
3 transfers from Jordan that are going to be playing on that defense that are all
Right.
D1 guys. Two Wafu I really like from Alta. Ingstrom I really
Hmm.
like. Will Dana's a
Hmm.
good quarterback.
Hmm.
So, and then obviously East is obviously loaded. Harriman's loaded. American Forks
Hmm.
loaded.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh yeah.
Tim Few's got a lot of guys to watch.
Syracuse has a few too.
Lehigh,
Syracuse is going to be interesting.
yeah. So tell us maybe for Aggie fans that don't know, there's a guy named Wyatt Bowles. Let's talk about him because
Oof.
he's kind of he got some uh, some attention when he went out to Nevada, and
Yep.
he's been to a few camps, gotten a few offers. I think is verbally committed to Nevada.
Hmm.
He liked them so much and appreciated that early offer, right? So
Oh yeah.
tell us about Wyatt.
Extremely athletic.
Okay.
Again, so he was at our camp. So I mean, I watched him play last year when he was at Syracuse, and a very good player. Kept progressing, just athletic as can be. Um, let's see, Wyatt. I'm trying to think height and weight with him. Around 6'5", 260, 265 ish probably. Very, very athletic. Because I remember at
Maybe
Max
even
D1
less,
Showcase,
yeah.
you asked me about him. Like he caught
Yeah.
your attention, and
Yeah, I was like,
you're
hey,
like, who's
who's
that
that
long
guy with
hair
the
kid?
long hair? Yeah.
Right, right. He can play. Man. I mean, he's a
Yeah.
Division One guy. So Alex Gerke looked at him and said, "Come on, man, this guy's a Division One guy. Like, oh man,
Yeah.
he can play." Coach Mac said the same thing. Then he came in for a training session, and I mean, we were very impressed with him. So from Mac's showcase, I mean, the main thing we done that I mean, it's not something we advertise. I mean, we advertised it when people signed up for the camp, but a lot of these guys don't realize we talked to quite a few coaches. So what we done, we evaluated those guys. We have a write up on those guys, and we called all our contacts. And Wyatt was one of those guys. He was on our contact list of these are the guys you can't pass up. We definitely talked to all the major in-state schools, all the Mountain West schools, quite a few Pac-12 schools. Yeah, I mean, we told him about him. He's a good player. I mean, he has a lot of potential. Now, is he going to come in as
Yep.
a freshman and start? No. But is he a kid that 2 to 3 years down the line, are you going to be glad you have him? Absolutely, because I mean, he's going to. I mean, the kid, when it's all said and done, is probably going to be about 290, 300. Low body fat, absolute monster motor, extremely athletic. I mean, between him and Tyson Lewis, they're the two most athletic linemen, or in Jaron Kump. Tyson Lewis, Jaron Kump, Wyatt Bowles are the three most athletic
Right.
offensive linemen I have seen this year. They're all the same caliber. Like, they're all extremely athletic. Like, they're all there.
Yeah,
But he's
and
definitely a guy. Utah State, I mean, they should offer that guy. Absolutely. So Nevada's on it. So they got that coach that used to be at Oklahoma. Is it Norvell? Yeah,
yep.
he used to be a wide receivers coach at Oklahoma. Good coach, great recruiter, obviously with Bob Stoops. I mean, those guys,
They
he's going to know
got
how to recruit very well.
they
And
got
Jason
Kafusi.
Kafusi.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I worked with Kafusi, and I sat down with quite a few coaches after Max D1 showcase, and a lot of guys were very, very receptive when they came here. They made sure we sat down, talked. Jason's one of those guys that he's just on top of it recruiting wise. I mean, he's on top of it. Very smart offer with him. But I'll tell you, the guy Utah State needs to go after. If I'm an in-state school or any surrounding school, I'm going after Alex Harrison from Beaumont right now.
Right.
I'm writing letters to mom. I'm writing letters to his head coach. I'm letting him know right now I'm interested because that kid's gonna blow up. If he stays healthy, he's gonna be one of the top players to ever come out of Utah, in my opinion. So for instance, we're talking about all these top players at Max are at our offensive line training camp, right?
Yep.
Alex might have been the best one. He was still a freshman. He was still a freshman in junior high when the camp was going. He might have been the best one there as a freshman, the end of his freshman year. He's that good. And you know what? He might be even better on defense. He started on defense as a true freshman. I mean, he was a monster. He was hard to block. But right now, as an offensive lineman, he might have been the best one at that training session. And we were loaded. He's that good.
That's impressive.
I know he was at Utah State's camp. I know he was there, but again, they didn't offer him. I know he's young. People want to wait and see. I wouldn't wait and see that 1 second. I'd be all over that guy and make him that once in a lifetime recruit you always get.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, that I can definitely agree with. Another guy, the 2019-2020 class will be just as good, if not better, than this 18 because a guy like Zach Mendoza I think has a lot of potential.
Oh yeah.
He's another guy that you've kind of been working out with. He's a 2019 kid. But but to finish off talking about Wyatt, well, both Wyatt and Alex is when they put through, as we kind of mentioned already, you can tell a D1 offensive lineman when you ask them to kick out and slide step or to move around. You can tell if a guy can move. If the guy can move, he can move. Some guys just really can't move. I mean, there's one guy, I won't mention names, but you know what? He's going to take a lot of work for him to be a D1 guy. Maybe he's got the size and the potential that somebody will take a chance on him, but some guys just aren't born with those light feet, and I think Wyatt, it's pretty easy to tell. Tyson Lewis, it's really easy to tell, and part of that is not only his athleticism, but also his motor, as you mentioned. So we're giving a little love to those BYU commits, I guess. But I love all the in-state guys. I mean, I don't begrudge anyone for not choosing the Aggies or anything like that. So there's so much talent. The kids are so great in the state of Utah, in my opinion, that I'm happy to see those guys succeed, and now a lot of these guys that I've been covering for the last few years are starting to play at BYU or Utah State, so that's fun to see as well. So
you know what, if Utah State got commitments from like the Bronson Barons, the Braden Ships, the Jay Wadleys, maybe flip like a Wyatt Bowles, that starts looking a lot different as far as who has the best in-state. Like, you know what I mean? Like, these guys are just as good as anyone else out there in state. But I'll tell you another guy, the kicker from Beaumont, Preston Pitt. Have you had a chance to watch him kick yet?
I have, yeah. He's really impressive.
I know he camped at I know LSU was after. I know Texas Tech came up to see him. He camped at Alabama. He's a special punter. Like, he is special. So again, he's another one. But talking to him, I know he's only looking in state for the most part. So that'd be interesting. In my opinion, I think Utah State. In fact, I'm very confident that they're going to offer that guy.
Yeah, and he is a 2018 guy, right? Or 2018.
Oh yeah. He just very much. I mean, he might be the top punter in the country. He might be. I mean, he's easily like top 5. He might be the top one as far as accuracy, leg strength. He changes the game with field position just by himself.
So what's your pitch to these college coaches? Why should an in-state school take some of these in-state guys over a guy in California that's similar, close, maybe a little bit better? Why should they take the in-state guy, in your opinion?
You know what's interesting with that question? I think they should take him just because I think home kids understand the culture, they understand the importance of that school, and they just have a lot of them have a hunger that you can't duplicate somewhere else. I mean, a kid might be more athletic, but that kid, playing for Utah State, playing for BYU, playing for Utah, that's all they wanted was that shot to stay home, play in front of their family, in front of their friends, and they're going to give it everything they have for those 4 to 5 years. Out of state kid, you might, yeah. I mean, you find some hungry guys, absolutely, but it just becomes different, especially when it's really special to that kid, and he's not far off talent-wise from that other kid. I mean, they're very similar. I think you go with the in-state kid, but with me, with in-state coaches, I actually don't talk to them too much about in-state players. That's mainly Coach Gerke. Like they're always talking to Coach Wells, Coach Whittingham, Coach Sataki about our guys. I focus more out of state actually, because to me, in-state coaches they should know these guys. I mean, if they don't, they don't need to be there. I mean, if they don't, they really don't need to be there. But the out-of-state coaches, those are the ones I focus on because there's too many guys for the in-state guys to have, and I know our players are better than the ones in the surrounding states, but for the most part, and we have more of them. So yes, those Mountain West schools need to be on them. Because Utah State, BYU they can't sign everybody, right. And there's other good guys like Bronson Barron. Again, I mean, we're talking quarterbacks, and I know, Wilson, has his commitment with Boise, Cooper with Washington State. Bronson's the same caliber. I mean, he and I'm telling you this. I've seen him play. And this is just my opinion, and it depends on style and things like that. If I have to take one quarterback in the state, he probably has the nod right now over those guys. And Zettler needs to be mentioned amongst those guys too. Alex Zettler does. But if I had to pick one to build my team around, no offense to the other guys, I'm picking Bronson. I mean, that's who I'm picking, just because, he reminds me of the guys I played with, like the Shane Boyd, Jaron Learns, and Andre Woodson. So we had 3 quarterbacks end up playing the NFL. 2 ended up playing the Super Bowls. And I'm telling you right now, he's like those guys. He reminds me of those guys. But, yeah, to answer your question, just again, the in-state coaches, if obviously we have our list, Coach Matt, Coach Gerke, talk to those guys. But if they don't already know about these guys, or if they're not sitting down asking the tough questions, and I know they have, and I don't want to go over coaches, but I know there's some that are really good, there's some that are not as good. So, but for the most part, the ones I've dealt with have been really good. I really like Coach Shaver over at Utah State. So he was at NEO. He actually helped me sign my first player, or one of my first players, Josh Morris. When it was at NEO, cornerback, ended up getting picked up by the Jets, free agent, with them. He's not with them anymore. I don't even think he lasted out of the preseason. Out of Ada, Oklahoma. But Coach Shavers he's a guy that I really like what he does. Guys like him, I think those guys are legitimate guys. So
yeah. Coach Shavers obviously had some time at Utah State. He's from Oklahoma originally, so. So that's definitely cool. Yeah, and another guy that you probably just slipped your mind, that should have a lot more offers than he has, the 2019 kid, Sione Moa. Kind of blows my mind that more programs haven't offered that kid.
Oh man, yeah. So
Weber High School.
Obviously Ben Moa signed. So Sione trained with us. I don't know how I overlook Sione. Sione trained with us. And the thing about Sione, so he's playing receiver for him, and he mainly played receiver last year. He's gonna, he can he can play receiver and be a phenomenal receiver. I think that guy can play a number of positions on defense and be out of this world, out of this world. I mean, he's a specimen. I mean, he's good height, good build, good, excellent family genes. You know what I mean? And he got those. He got his dad's family genes. I mean, he's a Moa, definitely. I mean, he absolutely. But yeah, no, he's a good player, and I understand when he went to BYU, I think he said he got like an MVP, one of the MVPs there, and I'm not big on camp MVPs, man. I mean, to me, a camp MVP, you need to be there more than one day. Like these one day camps or camp MVPs, I'm just not big on that. because you need more than 2 hours, 3 hours to evaluate someone. You need a couple of days. Like the all poly, that's legitimate. But some of these camps, man, they had like 3 or 4 MVPs. How do you have 3? Mathematically, it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, or by definition, but like the all poly, I like the all poly when they have their MVP. The other camps, a lot of it's so political, man. Schools trying to sign someone. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
Oh man. And then we done it. I mean, we done it in the Weber. Oh, you're the MVP. He wasn't, but shoot, we really didn't want him.
Yeah.
So,
have you had a chance to watch Cade Moore? He's kind of starting to grow. Starting to get some offers and some looks and some notoriety, but still hasn't got really any big offers or anything like that. Have you had a chance to watch him at all? Or
I have, not this summer, but so we played when I was coaching high school with Viewmont last year. We played them, and Dallin obviously stood out. I didn't know who Dallin was, number 5. He stood out, but on film, Moore stood out on film. Moore was a guy that I said, you know what? In order to beat Lehigh, you got to stop this guy. He was a big part of that offense last year, and I know Carson was the big name guy, and obviously Carson was a difference maker both sides of the ball, junior and senior year. He was a monster.
Yeah.
Don't know how much he played sophomore. I didn't watch him his sophomore year, but junior, senior year, he was a monster. Went up, coached against those guys both years. Moore's a good player. Division I wise, I just need to see more of him. I haven't seen him. So when we played, I mean, they pretty much, I mean, they murdered us last year. I mean, that quarterback had a field day, and then Dallin just went off. I mean, he was making unreal catches. So I don't think anyone else really got a chance to shine just because those two dominated the game so much. But on film, I liked what I saw his junior year. I need to see him in person this year. He's definitely on the D1 watch list. Like, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a tip about Dallin Holker from Big Al Bornholt, who is my photographer at Scout, and he was telling me how good he was, and I had a chance to watch him and Cade Moore and some of the Lehigh guys at Mountain West Elite and some of those games that I went to last year. Another guy that has a ton of potential on Lehigh as an offensive line, maybe defensive line, but I like him better as an offensive lineman. Kid named Hayden Erickson. He's got a ton of potential. He's underweight. He just keeps adding weight, and he's been really underweight. But he's a guy that I would compare with some of those other offensive linemen that you've been working with. But definitely needs to put on more weight. So.
Yeah, no. So a lot of these guys. So that's the thing about. In-state. So we had our showcase. We had 100 guys there, and we could easily. I mean, by no way was that a representation of all the top players in the state. No camp are you going to have just all the top. I mean, you might have all the big names, but there's so many guys that are under the radar that for whatever reason they might not have heard about, or they're on a family vacation, or they just can't afford it. I mean, it's so many factors that I'm telling you, if we had 35, 36 Division I guys, caliber guys at our camp, that there's a consensus these are D1 guys, I can only imagine if everyone, if we had 3 times the amount.
Right.
We didn't have any of the East guys there. Like, do you know what I mean? We didn't have the Tempe. We didn't have a lot of Utah County guys. And I'm just thinking, or we didn't have the Highland guys, only a couple of the Hunter guys. And I'm just thinking, you know what? We might very well be in extremely high number of Division I guys. I know the LDS aspect with missionaries throws a lot of coaches off.
Mm-hmm.
But if that wasn't a factor, I'm telling you right now, we can easily have 75 guys go out. Count an FCS, easy. I'm telling you right now, we would have at least 75 count an FCS if the religious factor wasn't an issue with some of these coaches. But it's interesting though.
Have some of the out of state coaches told you that they kind of stay away from those mission guys, or is that a legit concern?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. From the Pac-12, the Big 12, the Mountain West, the SEC, yes, Big Ten. You name the conference. Within the past 4 to 5 months, we have had that conversation where they told me, I love this kid. Is he going on a mission? Yes, he's planning. All right, we're no longer recruiting them. Yes, that has happened.
Yeah, and a lot of it, I mean, I don't know how much I've talked about this. Maybe we have, Seth, a little bit on the podcast with Mission Kids, but there's going to be a percentage of them that come back maybe right before the summer before they're supposed to play, and they're not really, they're not really ready to start as a freshman or start football. Some of them change their mind and they want to go to BYU. Some of them, I mean, there's just so many different factors that I think sometimes that's a legit concern. It's not a
Yeah,
it's not a
yeah.
good or bad thing, and it's probably a good thing for Utah State if they can get some of these Mission kids. But and sometimes they don't have a they don't want to project that scholarship out a couple years. Obviously, unless it's a really special player and different things like that. So yeah, I mean, I definitely 100% get that. I think same thing. A guy on Twitter or on message board can say, "Oh, that's ridiculous," but that's a legit concern.
Oh,
But in
yeah,
my
it is.
opinion, it's something that can work well because obviously Gary Anderson, that was one of his pillars of his recruiting was the mission kids. So it
Well,
can it can be done well.
yeah, I mean, personally, I love the Mission Kids. I
Yeah.
mean, for one, I mean, the main reason, I mean, they're mentally going to be there. They're mentally going to be focused. They're mentally, they're mature. They're not going to be over there chasing girls,
Yep.
getting into crazy fights at parties for the most part.
Yeah.
Drug issues. So a lot of these coaches, I'll tell you what's so ironic. A lot of these coaches claim they want high character guys. How many more high character guys are you going to get than returning missionaries? Do you
Right.
know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and then from the same part, oh, we want to win right now. No coach in America is going to win
Yep.
playing freshmen. You're not going to win playing a freshman. You're not going to win playing sophomores for the most part. I mean, you win with playing kids that have been in your program 2 to 3 years and then developing. If you're playing freshmen, it's a bad sign of your program. That's a
Yep.
bad sign. I mean, every once in a while you do get that special player, and in some positions you can get away with it, like running back. A lot of times you get those really good running
Yep.
backs are guys that come into play as freshmen to me. But outside of that, if you're playing, like, especially linemen, it's why not recruit a missionary? Like, why? I mean, you're not going to win with freshmen anyway. Let the kid come in, let him, do what he needs to do a year or two, get ready physically playing it, and bam, man. I mean, you're going to be set. And at the end of the day, that kid's going to be he's going to be a positive influence for your team, a mature leader. Then, I mean, I'm just going to say it. He's going to be a couple years older,
Yep.
when it's all said and done too, and that's an advantage.
Yep. Um, yeah, and I think is Bronson Barron a mission kid? I can't remember if I've asked him
To
that or
my
anything, but
knowledge, yes, yes. So
yeah,
last time I talked to him, he was planning on going to a mission. Yes.
yeah.
And
I
that's the
can't.
puzzle because I know some school. Yeah, I know schools would be all over him if that
Yeah.
wasn't the issue. Yeah.
Well,
All right.
as
All
we
right.
mentioned, son, I really like Bronson Barron. What he did last year as a junior and what I saw in actual game. I've seen him in games. I've seen him in camps. I've seen him, throw a lot, and I'm 100% sold. So, um, and he's one of the main reasons why I'm so excited about the quarterbacks in the state of Utah. So he'll be fun to watch again this year, and I guess we'll see what happens because, as always, just because he doesn't have offers right now doesn't mean it couldn't change tomorrow or in a year, or after his mission. So who knows? I guess we'll see
Absolutely.
what happens. So,
Right. Right.
let me see. Let me think. Seth, anything come to mind? Are you still on with us? I think you brought up a lot of really good topics as far as in-state recruiting and some of the sleepers that are in state. It'll be fun to watch and hopefully if nothing else, this podcast will help kind of Aggie fans keep their eye out for some of these guys. Maybe go to some of the games and watch a team like Harriman who's loaded with D1 guys, a team like East, a team like even like Viewmont or someone else. So it'll be fun to kind of keep an eye on some of these guys. and see what
Absolutely.
happens. So
Absolutely.
Utah State's definitely shown in the past that they've offered late. They sometimes they offer early, sometimes they offer late. These in-state guys sometimes they obviously don't offer at all. So you kind of I never know. It's hard for me to predict. Sometimes I can predict pretty well, but it's always tough to tell what they're gonna do. Which, like I mentioned, it's a hard job. I don't blame them necessarily. So,
Right. Right.
but but hopefully these in-state kids get a chance because we already mentioned. I mean they're really good players. They're great kids. Um, and I think the state of Utah has a lot of talent out there, a lot of really good players that could play. So we're definitely both in agreement there. Um, yeah, I can't think of any other questions. You have anybody else that you're remembering now that you wanted to
Uh,
talk about or anything? You've talked
no,
about a lot of kids.
yeah. Yeah, no, not off the top of my head, but I'll tell you what, it was fun. I definitely got to do it again.
Yeah.
It's definitely fun podcast.
Yeah. We have fun. We love to talk about the recruits, the recruiting, the Aggies. The upcoming year we'll have more podcasts. So everybody listening, tune in the future for more recruiting talk, more position breakdowns. We'll start recording more podcasts on a regular basis. As far as breaking down positions, breaking down kind of position battles, opponents. We'll preview different opponents for Utah State, and we'll get on as many guests as we can, like Kamaal, who was kind enough to join us. So that was awesome, Kamaal. I appreciate it. We'll sign off and let you get back to your night. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. You guys have
Okay.
a great night.
All right. Thanks, Kamaal.
All right, take care.
Okay. See ya.